So thanks a lot once again joining Hayley Cameron. Want to give a little introduction about you, though, not at all required because it's a well-known name. Education Safeguarding Manager at Cognus Limited. Strong background you've got in safeguarding and education management, child protection, communication, and supervision, and interagency collaboration. You also have a tremendous research experience and coordination. So this is a wonderful piece of possibility for us to have experts like you on our RESO platform so that we can expand the very domain of research and academia and make the society a better society. Once again, we are very glad to have you on this to have you on board, ma'am. So would like to move on to my first question, also giving a little elaboration of the topic, like protection and safeguarding teams in school. It's going to be that. So just asking first question, we always talk about protecting students, but who is looking out for safeguarding staff?
For having me, really excited to be here, and such an important question. Obviously we're all in this to protect the children, but obviously we do have staff and the staff well-being, which needs to be at the forefront of thinking as well. I think in schools, in education, it's very important to have a team around you. So in terms of safeguarding, not just having one person, the designated safeguarding lead who has all of the responsibility, but having a wider safeguarding team. So there is always somebody to talk things through with. Line management is so important. Having people that you can reflect at the end of the day, at the end of a tricky case. But I guess the biggest thing for me is that all staff should have access to reflective safeguarding supervision. And, schools do have this in place. Lots of schools do it in a variety of different ways. But lots of people like to have somebody external to the school, so they're not so close to the day-to-day interaction and cases. And I think that really helps the staff to open up and validate their feelings.
Okay. Because everybody talks about students, their protections, but nobody concerns about talking, safeguarding staff. So very important component. Would like to move on to my second question. And very important questions is, how does regular safeguarding supervision actually help prevent burnout?
Want to prevent burnout, I think just giving people the space, everyone is so busy all of the time, but actually committing to that safe space where you can share your feelings, how things have impacted you, talk about tricky cases, get some support and advice, is absolutely vital. I think too many people say, we're too busy, we haven't got time for this. I think it's absolutely essential for anyone working in safeguarding. It's important to make the time. It's important for your managers, your head teachers to recognise that you do need this. And people use supervision differently. It doesn't work the same way for everyone. And whoever is facilitating your supervision needs to have an awareness of this. We want to make it work for each individual teacher, person, whoever it is that needs it. We want it to be kind of individualised to them. I guess it is about validating your feelings. Now, we know that we've got a job to do, and of course it's very busy, and there are certain things that we have to do. But I think there's that real importance that we're also human first. And it's important to realise actually dealing with these kind of things on a day-to-day basis impacts us. It can have that impact on you, in your personal life, in your work life. So it's important to get that balance and have that safe space to actually talk about how you are feeling.
Okay. Again, it's important to handle burnout, also wonderful narrative and deep insights that you talked about. Would like to move on to my third question. Again, one question is, can you share a moment where you felt overwhelmed in your safeguarding role?
I can. There have been many, but the one that really sticks in my mind is So just over 10 years ago, I was a safeguarding lead at a primary school where a child was tragically murdered by her parents during the half-term holiday. All I can say to you is that when that happens, time absolutely stands still. You can't believe it's happened. We're all in this role to believe that we can prevent these things from happening. You get a lot of, blame, I guess. You have people in the community, you have press interest. But the hardest thing is the kind of questions that you ask yourself. You're always looking at, what could I have done to prevent this? What should I have done? Did I miss anything? And it's a really difficult place to be in. I think you see a certain vulnerability with the people that you're working with, people who are all in the role to protect young people. And when tragedies do happen, it hits you really, really hard. I think it really did push everybody into that multi-agency space where we had lots of people coming together to talk about the learning from the case, and there's always learning. It should never be diluted. You need that multi-agency approach to how you can improve things going forward. Now, we were told that there is nothing else, from a school's point of view, that we could have done or should have done, but a child still died. So I think, especially in Sutton, we held a reflective learning event and we put together a toolkit that is now used nationally. I'll share the details after this. And it's a platform, again, that shares real-life case studies, real-life experiences, what happened, what went well, what you could have done. There's also an e-learning module on there that's free to access, and that's all about learning from child safeguarding practice reviews. So I think, you try to turn your pain to purpose, really. And I think for me, I couldn't talk about it for about 10 years. And then I knew that it needed to be shared. So now in all of my training, I share the message because that's the time that I felt most vulnerable in my career, in my personal life. It changes you. And I think it's important to acknowledge that because, of course, we get on with our jobs and we do the training and we want to support as many people that we can to ensure that they don't have to go through the same thing. But unfortunately, these things do happen. So it's about upskilling people, giving them those platforms where they can share how they're feeling and also really learning from the events and tragedies that take place.
Okay. So much that you talked about, like a woman, your experience safeguarding role. Would like to move on to my fourth question. A very, very important question says, what are red flags that a safeguarding team member is reaching out their limit?
I think with safeguarding, people have the tendency to just keep going, and they busy themselves. They keep going. Something else comes in. There's very little time to stop, reflect. I think when you realise things like it's impacting you at home, so you're finding it hard to switch off, you're having difficulty sleeping, maybe making some of those decisions, it's harder for you to make those decisions, not really knowing where to go next or feeling stuck. And then I had a conversation with somebody the other day and they said it's when you begin to normalise, in a sense, the tragedies that are happening or the disclosures that are coming in, that, children become seen as numbers. And I think that's when you really know something is wrong and you need to get support and you need to get help. I think, you have to feel to be doing this role. You absolutely need to feel, but you have to have the support networks around you to recognise when something isn't right, when you're not feeling great. As I mentioned before, we are human first. It's not a vulnerability or a weakness. There are things there to help you. The problem is if you keep going and don't validate or don't accept any of those feelings, that's when burnout can just, appear out of nowhere. You think you're handling everything well, but it kind of goes along that level of burnout, compassion fatigue, and it can really impact you in a variety of ways, health-wise, mental health-wise, and just generally in how you perform in your job. So really making sure that those processes are in place where you can get support is vital and invaluable.
Responding this one question as how to respond and comment. Now, I would like to move on to my fifth question, which is also a wrap up and final question, but very important question. Says, if there is any, if there is one policy you would implement to safeguard that well-being of safeguarding needs, what would it be?
Thought about this a lot, and I would say every safeguarding member of staff should have access to reflective safeguarding and supervision. At the moment, it seems a bit like a lottery. Some schools can afford it. They do it very differently. But it really should. There shouldn't be a, can we have this? Should we have this? Everyone should have it available to them. And I think a big thing for our schools is the finances, the budgets. People agree that supervision is needed, but budgets are extremely tight. So I would love to see extra funding in the schools so that this isn't a problem, that everyone who works in safeguarding has that reflective supervision available to them and the funding to support them with facilitation.
These are very, very important comments and perceptions from your end, like safeguarding staff, because everybody talks about safeguarding students and then actually helping prevent burnout and the kind of overwhelming moments of safeguarding you talked about, and red flags safeguarding, how people reach out. That's very, very important. And policy part also you've talked about. So once again, thank you so much joining our RESO platform. You've joined us from England, and such a wonderful personality, such a wonderful speaker, figured out doing research on your profile, such a wonderful stuff for us and for our audience to have people like you. As you're already familiar that RESO is a platform where we try to step through the noise to cause you most relevant sociological textures in our approaches on various societal topics which matter today to make the society and academia and research domain more comprehensive and more relevant in today's context. That's the reason you're on board. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again joining us from England.